It's the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney. This week, David gets interviewed by me, Johnna Farmer, and talks to Port City Football Club coach Henrik Madsen with the Mo Giles Band. Now here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome to everyone at home and in our studio audience to the Weekly Show. I am your host, David J. Maloney. To my right, as always, the Mo Giles. Beto O'Rourke has withdrawn from the 2020 presidential race due to a lack of funding after his polling numbers were stuck at 1% for 8 months. Think about that. Beto campaigned for 8 months and he finished with just 1 point ahead of me. Senator Kamala Harris just introduced a bill to extend the school day by 3 hours. In response, students across the country are now chanting, "Lock her up." This is one I like. Elizabeth Warren has released her Medicare for All plan. Don't worry, her plan says, if you want your medicine man, you can keep your medicine man. Pumpkin farmers are saying much of this year's crop is infected with a fungus that causes pumpkins to rot from the inside out. Much like Congress. Let's see, we all recently turned our clocks back an hour. Of course, I took full advantage of it. I went swimming immediately after eating. And the NBA standoff with China is now having some ripple effects. For example, Yao Ming has finally come to terms with the fact that he may never hook up with a Kardashian. It's a bad joke, but I like it. We've got a great show lined up for you tonight. First up, Johnna and I are actually going to switch places for an interview. And then we have Mr. Henrik Madsen with Port City FC to talk about his soccer team. So we have a great show for you tonight. We'll be right back.
And we are back, and it is a dream come true for me here at the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney. We're switching roles a little bit.
And then they intro me with the Joker. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Of course they did. Nothing to do with that, I promise. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions today. You're normally the one asking all the questions, but I think people need to know a little bit because I found out some stuff today that I didn't know. Okay. You're originally from New York?
Well, I would think I've got a little bit of the accent.
A little bit.
But I grew up in Woodstock, New York, the Woodstock, New York.
As in Music Festival Woodstock.
As a Music Festival Woodstock. And if you go back to Woodstock, everybody still looks like they just walked out of a Grateful Dead concert.
You know, you kind of give me that hippie vibe. I always saw it. And I also found out that you weren't originally heading into law. You got a degree or you were in school for applied arts? Well,
actually, I always wanted to go into law. When I was 13, I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird for Mrs. Wesselman's English class. And I knew at that point that I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew, and I actually did a commercial about it. I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and as time went by, I knew that I wanted to represent the underdog. When I was in high school, though, I ended up in an art class, and I found that I had a little, what I thought was a talent for it. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe what I could do is go into copyright law or something like that.
Right.
So I went to RIT. I got a degree in fine applied art for graphic design, but I realized as time went by, it's actually copyright patent seemed really kind of boring to me. But it gave me the ability to know a little bit about marketing,
right,
which is a large part of my focus. And then as time went by, like I said, I wanted to represent the underdog, and I realized that if you're going up against a big insurance company, you're pretty much the underdog.
Yeah, pretty much. And I love that you said it all came from To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch. Don't know if you know this, but my first play that I ever did on stage, I was Mayella from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of times, I've been invited to, because they do an actual live version of it in Monroeville.
Right.
And that's where, she's from. And interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know that the neighbor character was based on Truman Capote.
Right.
And so I would go there to see the play. They do it, I think, every May. And after a while, they invited me to participate, usually as either a judge or a foreman or something.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so.
Very cool. So speaking of Monroeville and To Kill a Mockingbird, how did you end up in the South from New York?
My biological father was living in Knoxville. I applied to a bunch of law schools. I applied to Harvard. I applied to NYU, Fordham, Columbia, and then Cumberland. I got shot down by Harvard really quick. I got waitlisted by the other three, and I got accepted readily to Samford. And I got to the point where I had to meet the deadline. I sent the money to Samford, and then a week later, I got acceptance letters from each of the three. But I was already signed a lease. I had already moved down. I was already planted in Birmingham. But that put me pretty close to where my father was living in Knoxville. So frankly, I was far enough away where I wasn't under a parent's thumb, but close enough where I could put the touch on them if I needed.
Exactly. Close enough for comfort.
Yeah.
I know people have to quote your ads to you all the time, your commercials. I have done it to you before. I've quoted your commercials back to you because I even said on Facebook once, I know he'll personally return my phone call. Do you have a favorite commercial?
There's a couple. I really, really like the one that my son did.
Yes.
And the way that came about was we were in New York, and I was waking up in a hotel room, and my kid would always take, he's very sentimental, and he would take on his iPad or his phone these videos of different things happening on vacations, and then he would edit them and make little movies out of them. And we would watch them back, and we would show like the first 2 hours of every day. I'd be like on the phone, I'd be working, I'd be doing this, and I'm like, well, if we could show how hard I work even when I'm on vacation, that's kind of a side that people hadn't seen, that people didn't realize that I'm constantly, even before we do the show, while I'm getting dressed and getting ready, I'm still returning calls. And so, and in between when we break for lunch, I'm going to be returning calls. And so I thought that would be a really nifty idea. So I called my production guy and I said, what camera can I buy in New York City right now that has commercial grade resolution that a 10-year-old can use? And he told me. I bought it, I put it in the hands of my son. He filmed it all. They said there was good enough footage, to use. We then put him in a sound booth, like you're used to being in, and he almost one-taked it all. I mean, he was great. He was a natural. And then he's been in a few plays and things since, and I couldn't be more proud of the kid. Yeah, that commercial it's appealing on so many levels. We were actually talking about it at my family Thanksgiving this past weekend because it hits from a different level than just and I hate to say this, but a lot of commercials are cars in your face, and your commercials have never been that way. Yeah, very personal. I try to avoid, there's a lot of attorneys who advertise results. I got him this much money, I got this much, and the other person comes on and says, he got me this much money. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. Correct. Every case is different, and who's to say, sure, he may have gotten you $800,000, but maybe that case was worth $2 million. Mm-hmm. Maybe he settled that case short. So don't focus on the amount that somebody says somebody got someone, because that has nothing to do with what the value of their case may have been. Their case may have been worth twice as much money, and that lawyer may have shortchanged them. So I never, ever, ever, ever advertise a specific dollar result. The only time I actually did it was in a commercial mocking people who Yes, which is my daughter's favorite commercial, by the way. Yeah. She loves that one. Scooter on a desk on a truck. It's her favorite, absolute favorite commercial of all commercials, not just of yours. She loves it. It was freezing that day. It was a day, we shot that out near the battleship. And they had to put me they had to bring the scooter and the desk up, and I had to be on the top of the semi. And it was like during that cold spell in February, it was like 17 degrees outside, and the wind was coming off the thing. I had strep at the time, and all I had was a suit like this. My hands and fingers, they were like blue when I got off. Well, now I appreciate that commercial even more. We were up there for like 45 minutes just doing takes, and I was just winging stuff. And when I do stuff like that, I just wing it until I get a laugh from the crew. And if the crew laughs, I know that's the take. You know that's the one. So speaking of, just to kind of wrap it all up right now, what does David J. Maloney do besides part owner of the Pensacola Ice Flyers? You're on the go with your kid all the time. What do you do in your free time? Well, obviously the show is part of it. Yes, and how did that come about? Well, I was approached by the folks at Sparklight, and they wanted to do a show. We talked a little bit about it focusing on law. I kind of wanted to do something that I thought would have a little more interest that we could dabble law into. And we thought that being here, having the access to this location, and the access to, and there are a lot of people doing a lot of good in this area. And so we try to have on every show somebody that's local, that's doing something, altruistically doing something good. And we've done that. And then we try to also have some other, guests that people really want to know more about, whether they be local or, we've had some great guests. So.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you. It's been a dream.
It's fun. And we are back. A lot of people don't know that we have a semi-pro soccer team right here on the Gulf Coast. I'm going to welcome our next guest, Mr. Henrik Madsen with Port City FC. So Henrik, you're originally from Denmark, correct?
From Denmark, yes.
How'd you find your way here to the States?
Came over in 1994 as an exchange student in Midland, Texas, and then ended up getting a soccer scholarship to William Carey when it was down here on the coast. Played down here, met my wife. She's originally from Gulfport, and here we are.
Here you are. Now, you've won a Danish Super League title with EFB when you were only a teenager. For people who don't know what that is, including me, okay, I actually have to read it off the card here, sorry. Tell me about the Danish Super League and what that means, because I understand that's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, we were playing in the first division when we were U16s for the club back home, and we ended up winning the national championship that year. It was a great experience.
That's cool. Now, what have you found to be the greatest cultural differences, both generally and maybe even in the game, between playing in Denmark and here in the States?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think as we're going, the game is growing, and I think the passion and the culture is changing. But it's kind of like in Denmark, Europe, and everywhere else. This is what kids play: is soccer. They go out and they play on their own. They go out in the field and on their own, and they play in the streets. Just like over here, we play basketball, football, anywhere you can find room. So
when I was growing up, we would play stickball in the street. Now you wouldn't do anything in the street.
Yeah.
But we would play. All you needed was a broom handle and a tennis ball. But yeah, and I understand, because with soccer, essentially, all you need is the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All you need is the ball. Granted, you need something that constitutes a net, but or a goalpost. But it's not like hockey where you have to have all this gear and you got to have ice and you got to have skates. So I understand why it's so popular around the world, because it's an easily accessible sport to get into.
Oh yeah, I mean you can play with anything that rolls. Tennis ball, little handball, anything.
Maybe not a bowling ball.
Bowling ball would probably be a little painful, but it could be interesting for sure. And then you can use anything for a goal: trash cans, chairs, whatever you can find. It works.
Now, tell us a little bit about Port City FC. A lot of people don't realize that we have a semi-pro team right here on the Gulf Coast, and you guys, I think, have some big news coming up too, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we just announced yesterday we're joining in the NPSL, which is the National Premier Soccer Leagues. So
that's cool.
It's a legitimate semi-pro league all over the country. They're starting a new conference down here along the I-10 corridor from New Orleans to Jacksonville. So we were invited to join in. We've had 2 really good years in the GCPL. Have been successful. We've had players from UConn come down and play, and other schools, William Carey, University of Mobile. So we were looking for another challenge, and this was it.
And you guys won a title in 2018?
Yeah. We rebranded in 2018 as Port City FC, and ended up winning the title that year. And then last year had a successful year, just didn't quite win it.
Talk to me a little bit about what game days are like. I mean, there's something that's really kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, organic, about soccer teams and their fan base. It's really kind of a different or unique atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we've been lucky. We've gotten a lot of community support. We play at the Herbert Wilson soccer field, Gulfport High's home soccer field, the only soccer-specific stadium in the state, and it's nice. It's inside the woods, so it creates a great atmosphere. A lot of the community people come out. We have some fans. We average about 300-400 people at the games, and we've really had some good success with creating a good atmosphere there.
Now, you guys, I know you guys play AFC Mobile. Do you guys have any? Are there rivalries at that level in semi-pro?
Yeah, I mean, AFC Mobile is probably the rival that we have. I mean, it's great. They have an incredible atmosphere at their home field, and then they travel a lot of fans as well. Some intense games when we play them. Now,
tell us a little bit about your position with the club. What do you do with the club specifically?
I was the head coach the last couple of years, and then moved into a director of football operations this year to kind of help smooth things, make things go a little bit smoother.
Now, I have part of the Pensacola Ice Flyers hockey team, and there's always a couple of players that that I'm like, you got to keep an eye on this guy. We just got this guy. You got to keep an eye on this guy. Do you have anybody that you guys have that when people come to the games, there's a couple guys that they should really focus on that you think are going to elevate, go places?
I mean, the last couple of years we've had Jordan Hall that came down. He started out at Mississippi Gulf Coast actually, and went to Rutgers, and then ended up at UConn last year. The MLS sent down some scouts to watch him in 2018 to see, and I mean, I think he was on the radar. Unfortunately, he ended up with an injury this year, and then we have Felipe Madero from Argentina came and played. He's at Eastern Oregon now, playing in his college season.
Well, the reason why I mention it is in a few episodes, we've got Glenn Metropolitan, who used to play for Pensacola, and then he made the NHL. And so there are guys that you can watch right now. It's kind of like when you see an upcoming musician, and you kind of know, and then like 5 years later, all of a sudden it's Taylor Swift, and it's like, I saw Taylor Swift in a bar in such and such, you know what I mean? So if there's guys that you know, it's kind of cool to let people know who those people are, so that way when they do explode, you go, I remember seeing them when they were just here at this time, you know what I mean?
I mean, and that is one of the things that we're hoping to kind of grow, is to try to go out and find maybe locally one of those 15 or 16 or 17-year-olds that haven't gotten out of high school yet, but is good enough and has the talent to take it to the next level, and bringing them in with the college guys already.
Why do you think soccer's been starting to grow more steadily in the U.S.? I mean, a decade ago it didn't seem quite as likely, but now there's a lot more following. I mean, heck, they even have they've got a team right now that plays inside Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of soccer's getting a lot more attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely growing. I think it's a good sport, obviously, for kids to get involved in. It's very healthy. There's a lot of movement in it. It's great for coordination. And then obviously with the women's team, as popular as they are in the world, as good as they are, that's an easy transition. And then the men's team is coming on.
What do you want people to know most about your club, and how can people how can people find out when and where you're playing?
Yeah, I mean, we have a website. You can go to portcityfc.com where everything is up to date, and then also on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media sites out there. And then other than that, I mean, we're just looking to get community support and hopefully show the younger kids in the area somewhere they can go and watch the next level up, and hopefully strive to be like that.
The only other thing I kind of wanted to do is I wanted to see if I could just touch you and have you fall. No.
I'll be strong.
But it's funny though, because the guys in hockey do it too. It's just you guys get a lot more flack for it.
Oh yeah. I can fall down and hold my knee if you touch my shoulder. I'll be good at that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Henrik Madsen with Port City FC. And we are back. So, Johnna, I kind of shortchanged you before you didn't get a chance to ask. I usually throw to Johnna and have her ask a question, and then we were going to chat a little bit about the holidays. Maybe you got a hybrid or something. But did you have any questions for Henrik?
Yeah. So it's kind of a two-parter. Number one, we're talking about soccer, Premier League. Who's your team?
Manchester United.
I'm so sorry for you. Chelsea all the way. Sorry about that.
Don't worry, we're on the rebound now.
It's been a couple of rough years for you guys.
Yes, it's been some very rough years.
Okay, so two-parter with the holidays. Since you are Mr. Soccer, Mr. Football, do you feel like everyone just showers you with soccer gifts during the holidays? Do you ever say, I just want like a food dehydrator or something, and you just keep getting soccer stuff?
Well, yeah, on top of which, I'm a massive Saints fan and LSU fan, so my wife has done a great job the last couple of years getting me some Saints stuff to wear as well.
Nice. So no more scarves that have your team on them.
No.
Step out of the soccer box a little.
We go with the Saints stuff when we have to give gifts.
Nice. I'll be sending you a Chelsea scarf.
Who wants a food dehydrator?
My daughter, actually.
Where did that come
She's
from?
12. She asked for a food dehydrator. Most random gift. Food dehydrator, and she also wants a new phone, clearly. But we were like, sure, I guess. What are you going to make? She said beef jerky. I'll bring you some beef jerky from my 12-year-old.
So tell me a little bit about, well, first of all, holidays in Denmark. Any different than the way that they are here?
Yeah, we actually do everything on the 23rd and the 24th. Usually the 23rd is a big family day, and then the 24th, it's usually you go to church, and then you eat dinners, and then you dance around the Christmas tree, and then you open your presents.
We had, I grew up, my family is largely Italian, and so the way that the Italian families do it is you do the 24th, and it's just a ridiculous amount of fish. It's just everything. Oh yeah, lobsters and crab and scungili and all these different things. And
lobster and crab and what?
Scungili. It's kind of a squiddy kind of thing. Oh. Not kind of like calamari, but anyway. So you got. I think that's what it is. When we used to do it, I was younger. I ain't touching that. But and the funny thing is now I'm allergic to most seafood because I probably OD'd on it during that time. But and then you open all the gifts then. But because my parents were separated, what we would do is I do on my Italian side of the family on Christmas Eve, and then the next morning would be Santa on the other side, and then, well, actually at my step family, my stepfather's mother, and then we would go to my mother's side that afternoon. So I'd have like 3 Christmases, and I was the cutest one, so I got all the gifts.
Of course you did.
How about you?
Yeah, our family is my mom and dad. We celebrate with them, my sister's family, Christmas Eve, and it's our big. We open all the gifts at my parents' house, and then my mom's family, my dad's family lives in Michigan, so unfortunately we don't get to see them Christmas Day. But my mom's family is massive. My grandmother and her sister married my grandfather and his brother. They each had 5 kids, so we're all double first cousins and double second cousins. So there are probably 500 people all celebrating on like one compound Christmas Day. We have to draw names for gifts because it
that makes sense.
So out of control. But it's always a big traditional turkey dressing, things like that. It's a blast. Well, it's very loud. Everyone talks over one another. We all wish everybody a happy holiday or happy holidays, no matter what holiday yours is. Thank you for watching the weekly show all the way up to here this holiday season. Mo Giles, take us home. Yeah.